Lowry, aka Seville. I want to thank you for tuning in every week at the YouGoin'Pro podcast. We are the number one podcast in the world that helps athletes develop proficiency, assisting their passion for the game they love. Today is episode 60. This guest today is very own Mr. Duke Dickerson. Played college baseball at Virginia Tech, where he set a single season record for 10 wins while leading the Hokies, hope I'm pronouncing it right, with two consecutive NCAA Division I Super Regionals. We're going to talk about that a little bit too. Along the way, he defeated the powerhouse, I think it was South Carolina, if I'm correct, University of Virginia, Tennessee, and Vandy. Let's just name a few. With that far-going MLB draft, according to his junior year, he transferred to Lipscomb University in Nashville, which I know about that. Of course, they're not a bad school at all, very good school. Well, he played a major role for the Bisons winning the NAIA National Championship. Okay, I didn't know that, Coach. After his senior year, Dickerson signed with the Toronto Blue Jays organization while he played 2 years, and then he was released. Which okay. And after that, he has also had an opportunity to go back to the New York Yankees organization to help them out as well on the staff. AAA team, the Columbus Clippers, and the Glanville, Ohio. Dickinson also has been a player development for the USA Baseball, consulting a number of NCAA Division One, Division Two, and Division Three programs. He's also placed over 35 highly competitive MLB supportive summer league across the nation of the MLB community. With that, he's become a special advisor for the Soligan Alligators
Yeah,
for the German baseball. Now, here is a very own Coach Duke Dickerson. How are you doing, Coach?
I'm doing very well, and thank you very much for having me today. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, that's a very long bio, but I like it. It's kind of very diverse. So we're gonna jump in. Let's. I know you don't like talking about this, but we're gonna talk a little bit about your beginning.
Yes,
When you were started back when you were playing with the very own, I think that was Virginia Tech,
yes.
the Hokies. Why the Virginia Tech Hokies? And you set a single record. So let's talk about that.
Okay.
So you were
Um,
the pitcher, correct?
I tried my very best and had a little bit of success. Um, in high school, to be honest with you, I was mediocre at best, and but I knew how to throw strikes.
Okay.
I was the miniature version of a Greg Maddux. I didn't throw hard at all, but I could throw strikes. Had a little run on my fastball, and the coach Bob Humphreys,
Mm-hmm.
who had played with the 1964 World Champion St. Louis Cardinals, was actually in Columbus, Ohio, to watch a catcher by the name of John Wolfe,
Okay.
who went on to play at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV. And when he came to recruit him, he saw me on the mound, and with the dazzle and magical 80 mile an hour fastball at best, he saw that, and afterwards said, "You can put the ball over the plate. Would you be interested in coming to
Mm-hmm.
Virginia Tech?" And they have a lot of had some MAC schools reaching out to me. Ironically, University of North Carolina, but not many schools. And so I welcomed that opportunity. Went down there. 14 games into the season, my freshman year, I got the opportunity to go out and throw some strikes against Maryland, and never looked back from there.
The Tarps. So you had an opportunity.
That's right.
Yeah, so basically, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes,
Basically, you got a Division One scholarship, not throwing gas.
that's absolutely correct.
So I mean, because kids now, but you, the key word was, correct me, you threw strikes.
Yes,
That's
sir.
the most important thing, throwing strikes.
Two and a half pitches, I could throw strikes.
Okay. So were you a setup guy, middle guy, or you a starter?
Starter,
Okay.
starter, and I ran the innings long, and it just had a pitch. And I appreciate you bringing that up because I think there's such a focus on velocity these days. And first and foremost, it's there's also a parallel fascination with arm injuries
Yes.
in conjunction with the UCL and shoulder injuries in conjunction with velocity. But I think the thing about it is with pitching, it's about throwing strikes.
Correct.
And whether you're throwing the ball 95 miles an hour or 75 miles an hour, and I think in high school I was throwing the ball 78 miles an hour.
Ooh.
It's a matter of throwing strikes, getting run on the ball. Change up is the second best pitch in baseball after strike one. And I just learned how to pitch because I didn't
Mm.
have at the time, to be honest with you, this was soon after radar guns even came into, were vogue. Uh, 78, 82 miles an hour. Maddox at the time was throwing 87, 88 miles an hour.
Right.
And he arguably would be the best pitcher of that generation, if not one of the best of all time.
Right.
And so it was acceptable. And so that's what we worked on. And went to Virginia Tech, had a former major league player, pitcher, as my coach. And he did a magnificent job. I think it was my sophomore year when I alluded to the record setting at Virginia Tech at the time. Uh, 84 miles an hour maybe, and I was fourth in the nation behind a guy named Floyd Bannister at Arizona State, Earl Bass at USC, University of South Carolina, Jim Gideon at Texas. And those
Okay.
guys were just bringing it. I mean,
Right.
they were
Right.
going hard. And there I was sitting around with an 80, 82, 84 mile an hour fastball,
Mm.
mixing it up with the best of them.
Wow. So basically, let me ask you this question: when you got to that point, getting an offer from Virginia Tech, what was that like for a young Duke going there for the first time and competing with these guys that throw velocity? How, I mean, what was your mentality? What was you thinking? Because you know what you can do, but you look at these other guys, you're like, whoa, he's throwing gas. So how did you feel and how did you adjust and make that adjustment?
Well, I think again, what it boils down to it's very simple, and I even work with young people today. Hitting is timing, and pitching is screwing up that timing. Uh, so if you can do that and have a little bit of running on the ball, to the best of my knowledge, I've never seen a ground ball leave the ballpark.
No.
So if you keep the ball low, and there's nobody going to hit a ground ball out of the ballpark, you let your defense do their job. Carl Kuhn at the University of Virginia, who I got to know and I appreciate very much. His goal at UVA when he was there was, I think, three pitches, 75% of hitters out.
Okay.
5 pitches, 100% of hitters out.
Right.
And it's about efficiency. It's
Right.
about efficiency, which would lead into effectiveness.
Mm.
So
I like that.
that's pretty much it. Just hitting's timing, pitching screw up the timing. I wish I could make it more complicated than that, but that's really what it is.
Right. And like you said, Duke, I think most people, they want to make it complicated and
Oh
they
yeah.
want to put all these extra little gadgets and this and this, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, effectiveness is and consistency is the most important thing because, you know, listen to your story. I thought about Gary Maddox when you just thought about. I was thinking about the very he started with the Cubs, then he went to Atlanta, and then when you're watching him grow as a pitcher. Now he was young. I watched him when he was young, which you probably did as well. And I'm saying to myself, first thing I said was, Duke was, how did he make it? So, because I'm a baseball player and I'm thinking I'm a hitter, I'll crush this guy. But then I started thinking about it. Wait a minute, back up. It's here. It's not just here all the time. It's here.
It,
And he knew what to throw at the right time.
Absolutely, and I so appreciate you saying that as an offensive guy, as a hitter. Um, to be able to get into your head, it's that one-on-one matchup. I mean, every pitch, every hitter is a contest in its own right.
Correct.
The mentality is I'm going to win that at bat. The hitter, a good hitter, is going to have that attitude, and I am too. And again, it goes back to the basic fundamentals of he knows what he's got to do,
Mhm.
and I just got to screw it up through disruption, through timing, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And there's a lot of cat mouse head games going on as well.
Right. Right.
But I think the other thing too, and I appreciate you saying this, because as I reflect back on some of the kids I'm working with now, which honestly, quite frankly, they have more talent or more potential than I probably ever had.
Correct.
But it's a matter of the confidence and the consistency. To get on the mound and have that attitude that I am going to win this
Right.
bat. And then they just have to be consistent over time and
Right.
focus on the basics and the fundamentals.
And you said something. I'm glad we're having this dialogue because this is good. You're a pitcher and I'm a hitter. And one of the things, one of my favorite all-time players, Mr. 25, BB, which BB is, and I watched him play and I watched him develop. So the thing that he always says is master every at bat, basically master that pitch. So if you have good work ethic, if you go to the cage and you master that, you should be able to master when you get in the game. And a lot of times, as a hitter, which you can jump in, they don't master. They take batting practice like, oh, I'm just going to try to hit it off the park. I'm just going to try to hit it. I'm like, listen, you developing bad memory, bad skills. Do that same thing in the game. So when it's time to execute, so basically the bottom line is, Duke, I want to be a situational hitter every time at the plate. Every time at the plate, I only get one pitch. You know, Barry Bonds talks about that. You only have really one pitch because if you have one pitch, you won't worry about the next two pitches. I'm just paraphrasing what he said. I'm
Oh,
paraphrasing.
absolutely, absolutely. No, I think the thing, and you bring up Barry Bonds, arguably, let's look at Barry Bonds on the baseball field. What he did in the clubhouse, what he did outside that's not the issue. What's the matter? What the point is that guy ended up being one of the greatest hitters in the game, bar none. And he choked up on the bat. He knew what he was doing. And I've talked to people in the Pirates organization. A very good friend of mine, Charlie Hayes,
Okay.
whose son ironically plays third base for the Pirates now. Charlie said people don't know how many hours that guy spent in the cage. And to your point, working on the fundamentals and so forth and so on, reading pitchers, reading spins, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the thing is, Coach Lowry, is that today, kids, I see 8, 10-year-old kids that are playing minor league schedules. They
You're
get
right.
out and play, and I'm fascinated because it's all about the fundamentals. It's all about the fundamentals. And my question is when do they practice the fundamentals? And that's what
Right.
I'm saying
All the
today,
time. Right.
and I think when you look at, I use the NBA as an example. A
Okay.
couple of years ago, over 50% of the draft was from offshore, outside the United States.
Yeah. Right.
Why?
Right.
Because it's fundamentally sound.
Right.
When I was playing back in the dark ages, 7% of players were offshore, from
Right.
Latin America, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Today, over 54% of the players are offshore. And why? Because
Why?
they're fundamentally sound, and that's a phenomena that we as a baseball community have to address. We got
Correct.
to get back to the fundamentals. In fact, Charlie and Mark Leiter and I wrote an article for Collegiate Baseball about the
Okay.
dynamics of change in baseball today, and we're so focused on gizmos and gadgets that we've gotten
Right.
away from
The fundamentals, the
the
basic
core
fundamentals.
fundamentals of the game.
And I'm glad you said that because I train kids. I coach actually here in South Florida as well. And like you said, these young kids, you hit it perfectly. And I train a 10-year-old. It's just one kid that I do train. He's 10. His dad is always talking about how good he is. Now, let's realize he's 10. He's 10. He's 10. And he's hitting the ball out the park, but he's only hitting the ball out the park off fastballs. I'm training him to hit curveballs and change it. He doesn't do it yet. And I said that because it goes back to what you said, fundamentals. If we go back to the fundamentals of baseball and the fundamentals of life, the world would be so much better. But we're trying to get these gadgets, like you said it. I agree with you. We got gadgets. We got who got the most leads, who got the most likes, who got this, but we're still not focused on the love of the game.
Oh, I so appreciate you saying that because I think I go because it brings me back to my youth and watch Little League games. And it used to be you would go to the game and you wanted to compete, you wanted to win.
Right.
But then afterwards, game's over. You go, to Dairy Queen with your buddies and,
Right.
and you have fun.
Right.
It's baseball. It's
Right.
fun. It's a
Right.
game for God's sakes. And you're supposed to have fun, and you learn that early on. And I think nowadays these poor kids, they're like, I mean, you wonder with the expansion of soccer and so forth and so on. All you have to do is look at the numbers. I mean, these kids that get to be 13, 14, 15 years old, and they're looking for something else. Don't get me wrong, I like football /
Right.
soccer,
Right. Right.
but it's something needs to change. Or again, it went from 7% when I was playing back in the day to over 50% of players in professional baseball now today are offshore.
Right.
Do the math.
Right. Right. And I think you're right. And I'm not gonna say think. I know you're right because I talked about this in a couple other episodes as well. Back when baseball was like one of the best sports. America, they call it America's
Yeah, yeah,
sport
yeah.
back in the day as I was growing up. And I didn't really understand it until I got older to understand. But you, as you just stated, if you look at basketball, we're talking sports. Look at basketball. You brought up basketball. Most of the guys are coming from overseas, or they're pretty much African American or black, or overseas. Now let's go over to the next sport. Let's go to football. Football, not American football, but soccer.
Yes.
Most of those players are Latinos or from other countries. Most of them. But then if you flip it, as we keep going down into the next sport, let's think about football, American football. How is it? Think about the whole National League Football League. Most of them are black, or now they're starting to integrate and go international. Now they're starting to try to do more international stuff, but baseball is like this. It's a huge gap, and
Absolutely.
it's a huge gap, coach. And I'm saying that because I'm like, okay, when you play versus I play and versus these kids playing, it's a huge difference.
It absolutely is. It's interesting, and I know you're going to be talking with the Germans here soon. But I was recently over there, and I was fascinated. Baseball became popular in Germany because of World War II. They had the
Okay.
fields, and the Americans were over there playing in the fields. So one thing happened, after another. And in the '90s, we went over with Major League Baseball International and started planting some seeds and so forth and so on. But the thing that's interesting, when I was over there in November, um, NFL football.
Okay.
Number one sport in Germany is foot, football, soccer. Number two, believe this or not, is winter sports, which makes sense. I think number three, I don't remember exactly what it was, but number four was handball.
What's handball?
Handball's the ball against the wall, and the hand. I don't know. I mean, it's I don't get it, right? And
Yeah.
I'm an American. Listen to these guys, and 2,000 3,000 people will come and watch the handball contest.
Wow.
And then get this, it's NFL football. NFL's coming over there, and what they're doing is they're getting into the markets over there. They're playing games, and then it's NFL football, and then it's baseball.
Mm.
And I think the opportunity in Germany, in Europe, is incredible for baseball because
Right.
very similar in nature to when you look at the academies in the Dominican Republic
Correct.
and you look at the players from the Caribbean. For baseball, you're looking at kids over there. If Coach Lauer, if you went to see a practice of the youth
Mm-hmm.
in Germany, it would remind you of days gone by. I mean, they literally practice. It's the 25, 30 ground balls per player. It's hitting to the backside. It's moving a runner over. These are 10, 12-year-old young men
Wow.
that are fundamentally sound.
Mm.
And when you go to a major league ball club or organization, they're going to be looking for that stuff,
Correct. Correct.
as
Correct.
you well
So,
know.
so let me ask you this question: define fundamentals for the listeners, because our fundamentals, me and your fundamentals, is totally different from today's youth. What fundamentals is? They think fundamentals is just go out here, hit me two balls. I'm over exaggerating, but hit me a few balls. Let me hit a few, and then I'm done. Define fundamentals, if you don't mind.
Well, I mean, basics. And I think what's interesting when you say that, fundamentals are the things that you don't like to do, the repetition. And
Right.
nowadays, we've made this such a fast paced, easily absorbed society
Correct.
that
Correct.
you don't sit down and read the book. You
Mhm.
Google it, you find out what the information is. And if I can translate that to fundamentals in baseball, I can't begin to tell you the last time I saw a player take 50 to 100 ground balls a day.
Never.
Or back to Barry Bonds, spend 2 hours in the cage working on, hitting behind a runner.
Right. Right.
You
Right.
know, Curveballs. Barry Bonds. Do you think he got fastballs? Well, he got breaking balls, but he had to adjust and he had to learn how to hit
Right.
breaking balls and off speed stuff.
You're right. I'm glad you said that. I'm writing some notes based on what you just said. I've started thinking about fundamentals because um my show that God's blessed me with is basically I'm helping you become a more proficient athlete on and off the field. But I want you to have proficiency. But in order to have proficiency, you have to have fundamentals. You gotta have fundamentals.
Yeah,
and people don't like that word. It's like a curse word. And I want you to talk a little bit about that, how the game has changed from the time. And it's not this is for educational purposes. And I'm because I'm going to back you up. So I know growing up we had little league. We didn't have travel ball. We didn't have all this stuff that they have today. And I'm proud to say that because it taught me how to love the game.
Amen.
It taught me how to love the game and love people from all races.
Absolutely.
That's the difference because now we don't have daddies trying to be super dad or super coach and try to get close to the coach so their son can play when their son's not good. Because when my dad played, I mean, when I played, my dad always told me, go out there and bust your butt and you need to work hard. And if I came home and said, Dad, I'm not playing, he said, well, get over it. You better get out there and beat the guy in front of you. That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
That
but
does
that's
not.
also life, Coach Lowry, because baseball is over with for all of us at one time or another, and you got to go out and compete, and it's tough. I think, when I look at fundamentals right now, it is the kid that wants to go out and take the 50, 60 ground balls a day. It's the pitchers that want to work on the mechanics. I
Yeah.
mean, pitching is not extremely difficult, but you have to work on the mechanics, the acceleration, deceleration. You have to work. It's a very
Right.
physical game.
Correct.
Physics and geometry, and if you understand those
Right.
things,
Right.
and how they work from torque to. I mean, I work with the pitchers now, and it's like. A guy named Newton, Sir Isaac Newton, came up with the key to pitching, and that was when he was throwing apples around under a tree someplace. And he goes, "Hey, it's real simple. Force equals mass times acceleration. Velocity equals mass times
Right.
acceleration."
And you learn that in school.
Well, yeah. Assuming they still teach it in school, but at the end of the day, I mean, the core,
Right.
the legs generate
Correct.
75, 80% of the power.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
That's the engine right there. And you need to focus on that. And how you focus on that, Coach Lowry, is you go in the weight room at the appropriate age.
Right.
At the appropriate age, when your musculoskeletal system is in development, not when you're 12 years old.
Thank you.
Uh,
Or 10.
but
Or 10. I've
or
seen
10. No,
little.
no, no. Need to spend more time with a spoon and an ice cream in front of you than you
I
do with a barbell and weights.
love it. I love it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. They don't want to do it. When I say they, it's a very general
Correct. Correct.
statement. But the ones that make it are the ones that dedicate the time. And again, I'll
Right.
go back to Bonds in the cage. You look at him what he did on the baseball field, which is commendable. I mean, come on.
I
But at the
mean,
end of the day, like Charlie said, the days and the hours that he spent in a cage learning how to hit the off-speed stuff and so forth and so on is a testimonial to his work and, quite frankly, his outcome.
right. Right. And you can't take that away from them, no
No.
matter what. You can't take it
You
away.
brought up something else, Coach Lowry, that you mentioned some time ago. You're talking about the African American players in basketball. You're talking about the foreign. I guess, am I allowed to say foreign? Is that properly whatever?
International.
International players coming into play in the football, soccer.
Right.
Hey, don't get me wrong, but a basketball and a soccer ball are a lot cheaper than a baseball glove.
And a bat and a glove.
$200, $300, $400. This bat's going to put me into the Hall of Fame, and so forth and so on.
Oh, my.
And I think what's happening is you're getting these guys that are playing, good fundamentals, and when you look at them, living in the New York area, I spend a lot of time in the city. You go to a playground. Don't get me wrong. I say this is not an overarching statement, but the majority of the people that were playing basketball, on the streets, were African Americans.
That's right.
I don't know what to tell you.
That's right.
And the same thing with football or soccer.
Correct.
You can pick up a ball. I mean, you look at the influence that Africa is making on the global football, soccer. Thing.
Right. Right. Right.
It's
Right.
incredible, but it takes work. And guess what? Those kids don't have anything else to do all day.
Do. That's right. That's right.
And so they're not glued to TikTok. And excuse me, TikTok's a sponsor, but they're not.
You're right.
They're
You're
not
right.
glued. I'm sorry, TikTok.
Social media.
Yeah, they're not glued to social
Media.
And
Which,
it takes time, and choose your time wisely.
wisely. I mean, you've said so much Coach, and I'm sitting here listening to you talk, and I'm like, wow. So we are heavily distracted. Bottom line, heavily
Ah,
distracted.
yeah,
But listen, you said something also was very key, and I'm going to paraphrase what you said. If you want something bad enough, you make it happen.
yeah,
There's an old saying, "How hungry are you?" People say, "I'm hungry." No, you're not hungry. You're not hungry. Because if you're hungry, your heart will show me. The heart shows me everything who you really are. So what I'm saying is this: there's guys that say they want to go to the show, they want to get to college and play baseball, whatever. They say it. But actually, talk is cheap. That's the old school word for
oh
people who
yeah,
don't know. Talk is cheap.
yep,
Talk is cheap. Show me what you got. And a lot of times there's nothing wrong with having favor. It's nothing having someone to help you get there. But at the end of the day, like you said, you have to put the work in. And I see, based on what your resume is, you went to a Division 1 school, then you went to an NAIA school. Let me ask you this question: why did you make that transition at that time from a D1 to a NAIA school?
the coach Humphreys went back to professional baseball. He went. I believe he started off ironically with the Blue Jays or the Brewers, but he went back to professional baseball. I think it was the Blue Jays,
Okay.
and he left. And so there was others that really kind of broke up the family,
Okay.
and at the time, and so a number of us left.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, I see that, but you didn't go to a scrub school. you
well,
didn't go,
no, no.
you didn't go
I
to
mean,
a scrub
Lipscomb was an NAI powerhouse,
house.
and
Yes.
Ken Dugan, God rest his soul, was an incredible coach. You know, no fooling around kind of guy. But
Mm-mm.
when I went, I think we had a guy come in from Texas, we had a guy come from Tennessee, South Alabama, coming in from all over because
Right.
they knew they could continue to develop
Right.
baseball under this guy's tutelage. So
Yeah.
that's what happened, and
Okay.
I have I have no regrets. It'd have been nice to finish at Virginia Tech, and I'm very fond of Virginia Tech, and clearly root them on.
All right.
But I have equal commitment to Lipscomb as well.
I got you. That sounds good. I mean, then from that point, you somehow had an opportunity to play with the. You signed with the Toronto Blue Jays. How was that to educate the listeners from going from that transition?
Well, I can comfortably say without a doubt, it was probably the worst investment the Toronto Blue Jays ever made by signing me, from a financial perspective.
Okay.
But because I was not very good at that level at
Okay.
all. But it just shows the irony. I mean, I was one of the best college pitchers in the country, Division 1 in the country, for a couple years there, and you just don't all of a sudden transition to professional baseball and expect the same
Right.
outcomes.
Right. Correct.
And so the same can be said what you had mentioned earlier. From little league,
Correct.
developing the passion for the game,
Game.
to getting to that 12, 13, 14, where now all of a sudden really fundamentals and focus thereof are essential.
Hmm.
It's every step you take. It's a different animal.
Right.
And,
Right.
and I'll be honest with you, I didn't really change much, my pitching approach,
Hmm.
but mentality wise, it's a different animal.
Right.
People are making a living
Right.
at that level,
Right.
and I wasn't that good, and obviously because I got released after a couple of years, but I can honestly look at myself in the mirror and say I did everything I could do.
Well.
And I think that's the key too. That's
Yeah.
given me some solace because I think sometimes people leave the game, and I wasn't hurt, no arm injury, no nothing. I just couldn't compete at that
At that
level. I was
level.
interviewed in Germany in November, and your performance sooner or later you're going to run into a wall. It happens to us all. Very few of us in the game of baseball. I'm talking about the baseball family, the community. We choose our time to retire.
Hmm.
Very, very few. And so we're all going to end. It's the fairy tale is going to end,
Correct.
and then we have to be ready to go. Which there again, that's where I believe education is critically important. If somebody's going to give it to you, take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because sooner or later you're going to have to apply it. And I know guys, I know guys that played professional baseball and made some money playing professional baseball
Right.
that are struggling today. Uh, so it's academics and athletics go hand in hand, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree with you because baseball is education too. If you
Amen.
look at it, you have to look at it from what angle you're looking at it. because you said some other things about steps, and I heard what you said. You said steps, so I believe your steps should be ordered by the Lord. So, and I said that to say this because a lot of times we're trying to do our own steps, and we're trying to force our way in things, and then God's like, no, I don't want you to do that. Then you wonder why you hit a wall. Not it's a different type of wall. I'm trying to explain to the listeners a different type of wall. There's a wall that my body can't play anymore.
Right.
I'm
Right.
done.
Yes.
That's a different wall versus this other wall that you're trying to hit it. And God's saying, no, I didn't order your steps that way. I'm just saying that, but you have to know that somebody up above knows more than you know, because sometimes we kind of force our way. You know what I'm saying?
I totally agree. I totally agree, and I think, one of my fundamental feelings is kind actions make the world a better place, and I think baseball is a game,
Hmm.
and I think enjoy the game, have fun, make memories. And I was talking to some of my pitchers the other day. We all have our signature game. You have your signature game. I have my
Yes.
signature game. Everybody has a signature game. Barry Bonds has a signature game. But at the end of the day, it's the memories. It's the ice cream. It's the travel. It's the hotel stays. It's the guys you meet, the guys that are in your wedding. Some of these guys that I've known from my days with the Yankees and the Blue Jays are my friends today.
Correct. Correct.
And, and,
Correct.
and, and that's the greatest richness of this game. Yeah, you're gonna win a game, you're gonna remember a game or two, maybe get some hardware out of the deal. But at the end of the day, it's the memories and the friendships
Right,
and,
right.
and the camaraderie. That's
Right.
the key to this great
Yeah.
game.
And
I think.
like you said, relationships. But before you said that, you said a soft answer. It's what your words you speak. And there's a scripture, Proverbs 15:1, that says, "A soft answer turn away wrath, but a harsh word stir up anger." So you said that, and I caught what you said, soft answers. And I'm like, soft answer. It's always better. Even if you don't like it, it's still good. It does joy to the heart. And a lot of times, I've noticed that, as athletes, we think sometimes being soft is not good and being hard is better.
Yeah,
And that's not true.
I totally agree.
That's totally not true.
Totally agree.
I had to learn the hard way because some guys are used to that rambunctious
Oh my,
words.
oh my.
And I'm like, no, no, no. I can still be effective with a soft answer. A soft answer would stir away. It hard is better than anger. And I said that because I started thinking about looking at your resume, looking at all the things you've done, and then you jumped into the USA baseball consulting. How did that happen, Duke?
Well, first and foremost, my father's still probably rolling around in his grave, wondering how a lot of this stuff happened. And I wish I could tell you how a lot of it happened. Um, I did a postdoctoral fellowship in Oxford, and I had a
Okay.
gentleman by the name of Robert Twycross,
Okay.
and he was one of my supervisors during my postdoctoral studies. And he said two things, which I
Okay.
think you would appreciate. I think number one is make a new friend every day. Make a new friend every day. Not somebody you're necessarily going to invite to your kid's wedding or you're
Correct.
gonna, have Thanksgiving dinner with or whatever. But make a new friend. Make somebody smile.
Correct.
Just have a good day. Make a new friend. And then the other thing is learn something new every day.
Yes.
And I think my attitude with that and my approach is, and I appreciate you're talking about the soft answers, is I would rather, honest to God, I would rather, and I do this frequently. I see a couple of young kids, playing in a field. I'll have some baseballs in the car. I'll stop, and give them to them or whatever, or I'll sit and talk with them. And to me, it goes back that kind actions matter. Kind actions make the world a better
That's
place.
right. That's right.
But baseball allows me to do that, and because of what I did in baseball, I'm able to, share
Right.
with kids, and I don't know if that makes any sense, Coach Lowry, but I think to your point, I think sometimes we lose sight of the fact that baseball is a game.
Right.
It's a kid's game,
Yeah.
and we're 21, 25, 30, 35, 40 years old playing a kid's game.
Game. Right.
And I think if you look at the guys that truly love the game, our peers, the guys that are older, that's what they're going to tell you.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if that makes sense or that answers your question, but
It did. I mean, it does. But I mean, and you appreciate the the legacy of baseball players. You appreciate the trailways that they have to make it better for us. So we're trying to continue the trailway for the younger generation. But going back to what you said earlier, um, I think the love of the game itself. And that's not just baseball. That's every sport. I think for the most part, the basic power three, football, basketball, baseball, is because we have a lot of distractions. First of all, that's just my opinion. This is for the majority, not the minority. The majority, and also I think that this is what I believe. I believe that we're doing a poor job, not a very good job of raising our kids at home. Because what happens is when they get to the baseball field or basketball or whatever, it's like we got to train these kids. Because I mean, I coach, I know, and you coach too. But what happens is I have to deal with stuff that they should have been dealing with at home. And I'm like, okay, all right, Lord, you got to help me with this one because he thinks talking back to me or talking back to his peers, his players, it's a good thing. And it's not because you have to have character. There's something called character. And a lot of times they're not getting it. So we have to teach these kids. So back in the day, which you can agree, it takes a village to build
Oh,
a kid, a
yeah,
village. And I'm
yeah.
saying that because that's my point. It takes a village. I
Right.
do understand that, and a lot of kids don't know that, but it's my job, I feel, if God puts a kid in my being, I need to do my best to plant a seed of love and to teach them, like you talk about getting out the car and giving the kid a ball or sitting down. That's the same thing. It's the same thing I'm doing, but I have to realize that they may not come from the same background I come from, but maybe they didn't get the same upbringing that we got. So it's our job to pour into the kids and show them a seed of love.
I could not agree with you more, and I think that's the thing that gives me the greatest. In my old age, that's the thing that makes me the happiest is helping others. And when I see a little mind of mush running around back to the ballpark, you see a couple kids throwing. Um, I think unfortunately today, and this is just my observation, N of one, and there's no science to back it up. But at the end of the day, I think love is displayed in different ways. It used to be, hey, let's go out in the back. And the
Right.
Germans asked me when they interviewed me in November. They said, "What do you remember the most about the game?" Honestly, I remember my father taking me out in the backyard when he was exhausted. He was spent because he's trying to put food on the table, clothes in the back.
Correct.
But he anytime I asked him to go out and throw, it's rather emotional. But he would go out and throw with me. Nowadays, and this is again not reflective of the entire population. Here's $100, go to the mall. I love you. Here's $100, go to the mall.
Hmm.
And all the kid wants to do is, cuddle up and watch a ball game or some, stupid ass movie,
Hmm.
or take a walk or go to the ball game, you know. And I remember my dad teaching me how to keep score. This is before, obviously, well, around the time of the abacus, but
Right.
this is before, technology and so forth
Correct.
and so on.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
And so when I was asked that question, nobody had ever asked me that before. But I played in stadiums full of people. I've done some great things on baseball. Not as great as many
Right.
others,
Right.
but I've done some great things. And but the greatest memory, playing catch with my dad in the
Right.
backyard,
Right.
was the
Right.
best.
Right. And I'm glad you said that because now you brought up something that I never thought about until you just said it, Duke. I thought about some of the most memorable times when I was a kid. I mean, in general, baseball in general. And I didn't have a very good relationship with my dad, but the one thing I do remember is when I first started playing baseball in the backyard. We had an alley because I'm from Chicago, Midwest. They have an alley, a backyard. It wasn't nice. It was just a backyard. We had a brick wall on the house. And believe it or not, it must have been God because they had a box for the strike. So my
Oh
dad
my.
we used to throw it, hit the strike zone. Like you have to throw it there. And it's interesting because you just brought up something I haven't thought about in years. Years. And my dad was not a baseball player, but I remember I'm the only left-hand person in my family. First of all, let's get that, coach. I'm the only lefty. So I had to really basically teach myself. So he's throwing to me. for the first time in my life, and I ain't never played baseball. So I said, I want to play baseball. I don't know why, but I put a glove on. I was just coach, just like this. I was just like this, and I caught it. And I'm like, I don't know how I did it. I'm surprised I didn't get my teeth knocked out, but I do remember that moment. I remember that even if it wasn't the best moment, but it was a moment I'll never forget
Right.
because he spent time with me, even though we didn't have the best relationship in general. But I remember that moment, and it just brought back a good memory of all the memories. That's the one memory I can remember because we're talking about kids. We're talking about love. We're talking about baseball, and that's what kids want. They just want to spend some
But that's your
time.
trophy, Coach Lowry. That's your trophy. That's the same thing with me. I remember, you know, the old red Tennessee Pinkies, rubber balls,
Right.
you know, beating the heck out of the garage door.
Yes.
You know,
It's like,
and you know, you don't see that.
no,
But there's
you
also
don't.
fundamentals: move to the right, move to the
That's
left,
right. You're right.
and
You're
hit
right.
a target. You know,
That's right.
blah blah blah.
That's good, Coach. I just thought about what you just said. Back to fundamentals again.
Yeah.
Because when your dad was with you, my dad was with me. He was teaching me, even though he didn't know what he was doing. It was basic fundamentals, hand and eye coordination,
Oh yeah.
hand eye coordination. Now the kids don't want hand; they just want to hit the ball. I'm like, no, no, we're not doing that. We're going to teach you the basics, so then you can learn how to hit the ball the proper way. So when you're doing something wrong, you can correct it. So that's
Well,
that's.
Coach Lowry, let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
How many times do you see kids playing wiffle ball or monkey move up or home run derby?
Never,
You know, we
never.
used to, you know,
We used to do that all the time.
yeah,
Yeah,
they break somebody's window. We say,
window.
you know,
Yeah, we break somebody, and you be running. I'm running. I'm like, mom, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go, and I'm running because I'm
now,
scared.
nowadays, a kid's playing home run derby in a schoolyard, knocks out a window. He's doing 5 to 7 in San Quentin because you
Yeah,
know he
yeah.
broke somebody's window in their house.
No,
Um,
that don't happen. That does not
no,
happen. No,
no. I mean, seriously, when was the last time you saw kids playing a kid's game?
no.
Home run derby, wiffle ball.
Oh, I
My
love that.
son,
Oh
he
man.
had a house in Connecticut, and when he was a little guy, he got like a plyboard, and he built a scoreboard. You know, and you know, he painted it all up, and I think it was like orange and blue or whatever. But you know, when I go back and I'll take a walk down memory lane and
Yes.
go to that house, that scoreboard is still
Still there?
up. Yeah, and it's just the coolest thing. But
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, I think we've gotten away from it. I have never seen so many 8, 9, 10-year-old first round draft picks that have already committed to they've already committed to Arizona State or Southern California, and
Oh.
you know, it's like why?
Oh wow,
You know,
Coach, that's good, Coach.
it's like let them
Coach,
play
that's
their
good. I love it. I love it. Amen. Amen. That's a word. Wow. Wow, Coach. That's good. That's really good. I gotta ask you another. I'm enjoying this a lot because you. I never thought that we're gonna go down this path. It's a good path.
Well, the beautiful thing about it is, with me, you have no idea what path you're going to
It's
go
like
down.
this is a totally different path that I thought we were gonna go into. I was like, okay, Coach. Let me just ask you one other question. This I got a couple. You've been coaching for quite a while. You've seen quite a few things: Division One, Division Two, NAIA. You also coached a little bit at the next level, and you're still coaching. Can you share with the audience a play of the day that you've seen, a play that you can share with us that we can share with the audience?
A play of the day?
Like a player that's good, or he made it to a certain level. It doesn't matter. Just share it. Something crazy. A play of the day.
All right, I'll share something crazy.
Go ahead.
Paul O'Neill.
Paul O'Neill.
Paul
Now,
O'Neill.
coach, you got to tell people who Paul O'Neill is. I know who Paul O'Neill is, but they
Yeah.
don't know.
Paul O'Neill, in Columbus, Ohio, went to Brookhaven High School, was drafted out of high school by the Cincinnati Reds, and played with the Cincinnati Reds, was eventually traded to the New York Yankees for a friend of mine, Roberto Kelly, and ended up with New York, where he created a legacy.
Hmm.
Paul O'Neill was, is, and still is today one of the finest human beings to grace this earth. Just a good person. But you asked about a play. He's also a tremendous athlete. He could have played basketball as well. I mean,
Yeah, he's so
he's
tall. He was a giant.
but I remember when Lou Pinella, who's old school, was a skipper for the Reds, and I don't know who it was against. You can YouTube it if you like. but a ball was hit to right field, and O'Neill, for some reason or another, thought the game was over based on the ball that was hit. And so he kicked the ball in frustration, and the ball went to the first baseman. I don't know if it was Benzinger or whoever, Hal Morris, I don't remember. And they made a play at the plate and won the game. And so the whole thing was this O'Neill kicking the ball. Google it, YouTube it, whatever. I'm sure it's out there. That had to be the craziest thing I'd ever seen.
Wow.
But it was just like he should have been playing for Manchester City because it was just like the ball was booted right to the first base and picks it up, boom, nails the guy. It was just
Wow.
the craziest thing. I mean, we can all reflect back on the crazy plays, I guess. I mean, that's the first one that comes to my mind.
Man, that's pretty good. You know what? I think about it. I think I've seen that back in the day. It's been a while, but
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that you had an opportunity to see that, live and be there with at the situation. Which leads me to my next question. I want to ask you a little bit more about the Germany baseball and why is it taking so long for that to take place?
Well, again, when you talk with the Germans down the road, I'm sure they'll be more precise. I think what it boils down to is you summed it up in the very beginning, where they're at in the food chain as far as athletics are concerned, and I think they're trying to sell the sport,
Okay.
uh, and they're getting involved and they're doing the things the right way. Um, I'm incredibly impressed. We when I was there in November got more things done in 3 days than many programs do here in 3 years.
What?
They're committed, they're dedicated, they're going to make this thing work.
Mm.
They're passionate, and what's interesting about Germany is in throughout Europe, baseball is no different than the football teams over there. It's a club. There's no high school sports,
Okay.
so as a result, they go to clubs.
Okay.
And now, if you look at Bayern München, which is in the Bundesliga in soccer, it's a multi-billion-dollar
Billion. Right.
organization, but it's structured the same way. There's the Bundesliga, and then you have the different teams that trickle down.
Okay.
And baseball in Germany is the same way. They have a Bundesliga, then they have a second league, third league, and maybe a fourth league. But it's all about the development process. And so the motivation, much like in football in Europe, is the fact if you finish in the bottom two of your league, you will be relegated down
Okay.
to the
Okay.
first league. And then if you finish in the top two, you'll be, delegated up or sent up. Structure's good because if you don't win, you don't have a chance to play for the marbles. But what I like about it is these kids still get scraps and scratches and scrapes and they hustle. It reminds me of us, you know, 15, 20, 30, 40 years
40
ago.
years ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, this is their thing.
Mm.
I think fortunately in some countries over there, they have the resources, to provide the materials and instruction and so forth and so on. And you'd be surprised. I'll leave that episode up to you, but when you talk
Okay.
to those guys, I think you'll see
Yeah.
where they've been and where they're going. It's phenomenal.
I mean, I like what you said because that's the one reason why I wanted to get you on this episode, and you've given out a lot of great information. But I got another question for you based on Germany baseball. Have you heard of the United Baseball League that's
Yeah,
in Dubai?
yeah.
And they
Uh,
just kicked that off too, not
Catch
too long.
saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know anything about that?
Well, we've communicated a couple times, and about taking a club there to play, whether it's the U.S. college team or the Germans. Uh, but that guy, you talk about passion and commitment. And I know he's on LinkedIn. I'm not
Yes.
as
Yes.
technically inclined as you are,
He
but
is.
he's
He is
definitely
LinkedIn. Yeah.
someone worth friending if you like, because the story is one man with a passion. And fortunately, he was in the right place at the right time. I mean, he had to tell you the story,
Correct.
but I've seen that grow. He built a facility that rivals most, high-end Division I programs.
Correct.
In what was it, 30 days?
Yeah, he's doing some remarkable
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
It's like okay, this guy had a dream, and he's just like okay, he's put it to work, I mean, he's not playing around, and it's interesting how he's getting all these players to come play over there,
Yeah,
and that's
you mentioned Larkin earlier. He's one of them.
that's right.
One of my former managers, a guy named John McLaren, who's one of the nicest human beings on the planet. He's over there. He's involved. I mean, you're right. But I also say this, Coach Lowry, is what's interesting. You say this is the Germans kind of poached the page from that
Okay,
because they're starting to work with former MLB players as well, and they're getting them involved in this project or that project, and so forth and so on to bring some cachet, if you will,
okay,
to baseball in Europe.
I like it.
Our good friend, Derek May,
Hmm.
great guy,
Yeah,
and he's involved as well. So you'd be surprised at some of the names that are helping the Germans, but in alignment, poaching a page of success that Cash is experiencing, Cash Shaw in Dubai. That's what they're doing, and
yeah,
but they're committed, they're passionate,
I like it.
and I applaud both of them,
I
obviously
like it.
Cash and the
I
German.
like it. I like that because baseball has deteriorated uh, in the United States of
Oh,
America. It has deteriorated, and I think by having these other competing organizations that play baseball, it's going to have to raise up because there's like the pressure is coming on you now. That's what I'm trying to say. Even though we know that MLB is a multi-billion-dollar corporation, but we can say this: there's there's a leak in the Titanic. I'm just there's a leak. You can only deny it for so long because we talked about that in the beginning. We talked about how we can see how it has not become a very diverse sport anymore. You don't see, you don't see much. I'm like, okay, we have a lot of more work to do as a nation. We have a lot more work to do if we want to get this baseball at the next level because it's going to take all of us. It takes a community to
well,
build it.
yeah, it goes back to what you said. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What you said earlier, absolutely, positively. And I think you also brought up a good point. When I think about the NFL, the influence that they have, I know most of Germany. I'm more comfortable with German baseball. Um, but when I heard that the NFL was over there, Major League Baseball is a business. It's a good business. It's run by good people, and I so respect the organization. But I think in my head, Major League Baseball should be in Dubai. Major League Baseball should be in Germany,
Germany. Correct.
because
Correct.
those are markets
Correct.
right there that the NFL is just has swooped in on,
Correct.
and they're going to get them.
Correct.
Uh, I see what Major League Baseball is doing in the Dominican Republic with the academies.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
applaud that. And you
Right.
look at the talent, the flow of talent that's going out
That's
of
the point.
DR, Dominican Republic, to the MLB teams, organizations.
Correct.
It's phenomenal. And I think the thing is if they got into Germany, much like they sponsor the U.S. Summer Leagues here in the U.S.,
Same thing.
we work very closely with the MLB supported Summer Leagues. It's a great business model because MLB baseball supports them. They give them a little bit of money to keep them, operational. But in the meantime, too, it's also a way to track talent. It, I know it. I mean, you got the crown jewel in the Cape. And then you've got other terrific leagues, the Valley League, you've got the West Coast League,
Hmm.
you've got the number of leagues throughout the country.
Correct.
If the MLB baseball were to go into Germany and help those independent teams and leagues and so forth and so on, I think you'd be surprised. It's
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
investment, right? I,
Yeah.
I, I make an investment, I want a return on an investment.
Investment. Correct.
And I
Correct.
think if MLB baseball were to do that, and again, my opinion, what does it really matter in the grand scheme
Right.
of things? But I think it would be a good investment.
Yeah. And it's just our opinion based on what we see because we're a baseball community and we love baseball. So when you love something, you hate to see how you can see it deteriorating.
Oh yeah,
That's all. We just
yeah.
hate to see that when you see other sports are maintaining and it's still increasing a little bit, even if it's just a little bit, we don't want to see how baseball was America's sport. Now it's starting to become like, oh, baseball, we don't even want to watch the TV. We don't even want to watch it. We don't even when you go to stadiums, sometimes you're like, wait, is this a high school game? I'm paraphrasing. I'm not saying
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
that
yeah.
bad, but I'm just making a point. And because I'm a baseball fan, I love all sports, but baseball really is my second favorite sport. I was just better at baseball. My favorite sport, truthfully, was football, American football. That was my number one sport. but my parents wouldn't let me play. They wouldn't let me play, but that's for another day. But I just wanted to bring that out. But now we've talked quite a bit. There's a moment that I share with all the listeners, Duke. I'm going to share this. It's called the True Triple Play. And a true triple play this month is Black History Month, and I always bring back some of the legendaries that, going back to what you said, the history of baseball. And this guy name is Pedro Sierra. He was born July 26, 1938, in Havana, Cuba. And also his career began in 1954 to 1958. So he didn't have a very long career. But I'm giving out a shout to all the great legends that played in the Negro League and all other leagues that was part of the Negro League. The team was the Indianapolis Clowns and the Detroit Stars. He had a very, very successful career, and I think he's still living, if I'm not mistaken. He's probably up there in age, but I just want to give out a great shout for Pedro Sierra. He's from Cuba, came over and played in the Negro League and did some great things. I just want to give out a shout. That was my true triple play. Uh, uh, that's who he is, and his name was Pedro Sierra.
Now,
So that,
may I throw in a foul ball for your true triple play?
go ahead.
Um, and I would please research it because I'm not going to, the name I'm sure I'm going to butcher whatever, but Branch Rickey, who brought Jackie Robinson, and broke the barrier,
Branch Rickey.
and you went through that, and all you need to do is watch 42, and see the trials and tribulation that one man had to go through to make life so much easier for everybody else. But when Branch Rickey was a coach at Ohio Wesleyan University in Delaware, Ohio, he had a young black player back in even before the Dodgers that was on the team, and that even here we are NCAA Division III, bouncing
Okay.
around from town to town,
Okay.
was exposed to the same trials and tribulations that Jackie was exposed to. But that was the alpha test. I mean, historically, if you look at what Branch Rickey did then,
Mm-hmm.
as difficult it was with now, granted, minor scale, but then he scaled it up to Jackie Robinson. That is someone else that I would like to recognize during Black History Month.
Well, here, now that you just said that was a true triple play, now I'm gonna go back. You said foul ball. It's a foul ball, but I'm gonna let you know you still got a couple swings. And I'm gonna give some information based on Branch Ritchie. He's correct. He was a catcher, a manager, an executive. He was born in Ohio, which that's where you're from. Also, he died in Missouri. He also hit left through right-handed. His major league debut was to his major league to pay, I can't speak. Major league appearance was June 16th, 1905 for the St. Louis Browns. I don't. That's a long time ago. And
Yeah.
on top of that, he was a player, a manager, a general manager, and I'm gonna give some highlights for him. This is a foul ball. He was a four-time World Series champion. I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
He also played a major part in the developmental, we talked about that, the developmental of farm systems in the MLB. I didn't know that. And here's another one. He signed Jackie Robinson for the Dodgers to help integrate Afro-American players to the Major League Baseball in 1947. And also, one last key. This guy also is in the St. Louis Hall of Fame. So, Branch Rickey, you're right.
And you know what? I'm going to spend your money, all right? You've got to have a T-shirt or a hat, and if you can have a viewer share with you the name of that college player at Ohio Wesleyan University, that the black American from Ohio Wesleyan University, that Branch Rickey was the first one to play college baseball.
Really?
Yeah, so there you go.
I'm writing it down. I'm writing it down.
Yeah,
I'm writing this one down.
throwing your money around now, so go ahead.
But I'm glad you talked about that, Duke, because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and no disrespect to any podcast. I'm not saying my podcast is the best, but we're striving to be better each and every podcast.
Your podcast is very, very good.
Thank you. And I'm trying to get it where people not just getting information, but get education.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, I put in the word. I always throw the word of God in there, but I want to make sure they're getting a full experience, because a lot of podcasts, they're just talking. I'm like, dude, what are we talking about? I need to, because at this point, we need great information. We need truth. There's something that I believe in, which I'm quite sure you do too. Just give me the truth. I don't care if it hurts. I want the truth. That's all I care about. Because when you get a certain age, I don't really have time for a lot of nonsense. Just let's get to the point because I want to impact other people. That's just one of my obligations that I feel as a son of God. I want to impact people's life in a positive way. We talked about slow speaking. We talked about a lot of different things, But I got one other question for you as well. Now, you played baseball, been around baseball. It's another question I asked. Who was your Mount Everest players that you would put on a Mount Everest mountain? You got to get four, at least four.
Four, um, in no particular order.
No, no order.
Well, one of them's got to be Bob Gibson.
Okay.
And Gibson was this kind, bigger than life human being. But from a pitching perspective, he didn't tolerate any. I mean, he controlled the mound.
Mm,
Uh, he would be one.
Bob Gibson.
I would have to go with Greg Maddux, just because I think he defined what pitching was.
Greg Maddux. Okay.
I got four, huh?
Yeah, you can do five, but you can like, at least
Well,
give
no,
me four.
yeah, I'll be happy if I can get through with four. Does it have to be? Well, I'll tell you somebody who I have incredible regard for, and one of the nicest human beings on the planet, does so much for so many, is a guy named Hensley Bam Bam Mullins.
Hensley.
Bam Bam Mullins. And in fact, I named my son after him.
Bam Bam.
Bam Bam. Hensley Bam Bam Mullins, who's now the hitting coach with the Colorado Rockies.
How do you spell his last name, Duke?
Meulens.
I've never heard this guy before.
Yeah. And Hensley Bam Bam Mullins, I met him when he was the Yankees AAA team. He was a player. And then he gave a run at it in the big leagues and ended up getting into coaching and managing. He played a year or two in Japan.
Okay.
But then he was Bruce Bochy's wingman.
Yeah.
Their World Series, their three World Championships, spread probably 8-9 year period of time.
Okay.
And then he's now with the Rockies, but he's from Curacao, an island off the coast of Venezuela. And per capita, Curacao has more major league players than any other country on the planet per capita. And every year they do a Curacao Baseball Week.
Curacao.
All the guys that used to be a part of, that hailed from Curacao,
Okay.
they come home. And they help the community and the children of the community, et cetera, et cetera. And we're talking about Ozzy Albies, Jorgis Profar, Kenley Jensen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the list goes on. Andrew Jones.
Yeah.
The list goes on. But to see those guys come back and give back, kind of what you were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
is noble. It's noble and to be applauded. And so I give that to Hensley. Not only was he a good baseball player and a great coach, but he's just a better human being.
I like it.
And then my fourth one, I'd have to say my son.
Who's your son? What's your son?
My son, Stephen Dickerson. He played college baseball, did very, very well, but he never lost sight of the game. And he did extraordinarily well. He was probably a better pitcher than I was. But he loved the game, and he still loves the game. And I think that's kind of the genesis of this whole conversation. It's the love of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd have to go Gibson, Maddux, Hensley, and my son.
Okay. Okay. Can you give me one more? A hitter.
A hitter?
A hitter.
I don't like hitters.
Oh, Mr. Duke, he said, I don't like hitters.
I don't like
You know you're a pitcher. You already know
hitters.
you're a pitcher for sure.
Hey, Coach Lowry, I'll put you in the play right now. At my old age, I'd still take you.
I love it. I love it. I love it. He said, hell, like, hey, you're a real pitcher. You are a real pitcher because most pitchers that are real pitchers, I don't like hitters. Don't have any.
Hey, I'll go out and drink a beer with you after I drop you a couple of times. Other than that,
He's, I don't like it.
hey, I gotta tell you this, and I'll answer your question. But we have a young coach, awesome guy. His name's Holden Martin, and Holden is going to be a major college coach one day.
Okay.
I buy stock in Holden Martin. But Holden Martin, it has that attitude you referred to early on in our conversation about the rah rah go get him, and which you appreciate, you admire.
Oh
But
yeah.
oh my God, the guy's obsessed with the game, and he's going to be a great coach. But we got into a conversation, and I don't know 3 or 4 decades older than Holden. If I threw the ball 40 feet, I'd be content at this point. But Holden and I got into a discussion, and he talked about what a good hitter he was. I said, "Hey, listen, Holden, I'll tell you what, you wouldn't stand a snowball's chance in hell against me." And we go at it like that. But no, I'm not a big fan of hitters, but because of you and you've been so kind, you know what, Bernie Williams.
Bernie, huh? Okay.
Yeah, I used to throw, and the only reason I say that is because Bernie, I used to throw BP for the AAA team as part of
Okay.
my duties, and we were ironically a friend of mine, Roger Dean, who played with the Tigers in the Tigers organization. Bernie was at an event in Connecticut, and we got to talking, babbling as baseball guys do. And the question was, who's the toughest pitcher you ever faced? And he said Pedro Martinez, which I'll go with that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what was it about the pitch? And he
Yeah.
goes, his movement on his fastball.
Fastball.
And then Bernie, unsolicited, and said, "This guy right here had the second best sinker I've ever seen," and that was me. So this is just more of a suck up and a thank you to Bernie that he's the best hitter. Because now, granted, it was batting practice, okay?
Right.
It was batting practice, but even Bernie couldn't hit me in batting practice.
Well, hey, you know what? We're gonna have to make sure we get this out so Bernie can see this.
Yeah, yeah.
Cause Bernie can
Get that out.
saying Bernie. I hope Bernie
Yeah,
sees this. I know he does a lot of stuff with the Players Alliance, I think it's called.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
He does that a lot with that. I know, and he's a great guy from
oh,
my
he's a great guy.
understanding. And
And
I was
he's
like,
also quite an accomplished musician.
oh yeah, 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 yeah. That's right. Oh yeah, yeah,
He
yeah,
received a couple Latin Grammys.
yeah,
And I remember back in the clubhouse in Columbus when he first started playing the guitar.
yeah.
His locker was like 1 or 2 away from mine, and you know, again, the type of guy he was. You talk about Barry Bonds, Bernie from the right side and the south side, switch hitter. Yeah, he's worked twice as hard.
Right, right.
He's
'Cause-
mastering both, and he's one of the most soft-spoken, kind human beings you'd ever want to meet. And
mm,
you know, it's. I remember when I started playing the guitar, and he does a lot of charitable work. I remember in New York there was a charity, as far as I forget the name of it, but food, like a food shelter,
mhm.
for the people of New York. And I think today he's still involved in some capacity, but just yeah, Bernie Williams, stick him up there on
I
the
like that. I like that, Coach. I love what you said. I mean, this has been a very, very fun episode, and now I know why I had to get you on here. And I'm gonna tell my buddy Derek and say, "Hey, Derek, you did a good job. He's good. I like it." We talked about Germany. We talked about your travels. We talked about the things you've been doing, things of that nature. We've been going at it for about an hour, so we've been going strong,
yeah.
and it's going by pretty fast. I would say, Duke, it's been going pretty fast, faster than I expected. But I want to know if you can give out some closing remarks about the show and about people, anything that's encouraging.
Well, I think first and foremost, you're getting a 5-star Yelp review from me, so that's phenomenal. I've enjoyed myself immensely, and
Thank you, man.
I
Thank
think
you.
the other thing too is we had not met before. Um, your attitude and the fact that your belief system and your basic fundamentals of the game. That's what we are missing, and we're
Yeah.
missing that immensely. And I think the work that you're doing is the disciplic in fact. I mean, you're being a disciple of baseball.
Yeah. Right. Right. I like
And,
that. I like that.
and you really are. And I think what you're doing and how you're reaching out to people and helping people and guiding people is phenomenal.
Thank you, man.
And I wish
Thank
more
you.
people were like you because I think a lot of people do things to benefit them.
Hmm.
And I think just by reading the scripture, what you have on the wall behind you,
Yeah. Yeah.
the script behind you,
Yes.
and your fundamental belief system, I think
Thank
you do
you.
it for all the right reasons.
Thank you, man. I
It's a
appreciate it.
great game, but a game that has so much to do with life.
Life.
And I know baseball helped me be, who I am. And as much as
Right.
any school subject I ever took.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Baseball helped me as well. So, I mean, from my perspective, I applaud you. I appreciate you,
Thank you.
and I hope we can do this again.
Oh yeah, we will for
Whatever
sure.
I can do to help you, I welcome the opportunity.
I mean, thank you, man. I appreciate that because nobody's ever said that to me, and I'm glad you said that. I mean, everybody wants to be appreciated. I mean, because I'm gonna use what you said. I am a disciple. What you call me again? Uh,
Disciple baseball.
the disciple of
Yeah,
baseball.
yeah.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
we
make a
need
T-shirt.
the game needs you.
Thank you, man.
The game
Thank you.
needs you because it's so many people are so concerned about their own well-being, which kind of goes back to what you had said earlier. You know, you're a disciple. You're out
Right.
there spreading
Right.
the word of the game,
That's right.
and hopefully we keep it afloat,
I
and
like that.
we will. We
I
will.
like that. Trust me. Next time you see me, I'm gonna make sure you see my T-shirt, "Disciple of Baseball." And they're like, "What is
Coach
that?"
Lowry, I'll tell you what. If you give me a sixth mug to put up on Mount Rushmore, I'll throw you up there.
Oh man, glory to God! I can't believe he said that. Wow, that's good, man. It has been nothing but a blast. I love it. It's been great, and we'll talk a little bit more outside of this. I'm gonna go ahead and contact those guys in Germany, and who knows? I mean, I'm coaching now, but I'm always looking for a challenge. You know,
Exactly.
I'm not very good at throwing BP. That's one thing I'm not good at, Duke. I'm not good at throwing BP. I'm left-handed. I tore my rotator cuff up probably about a good 20 years ago, and I never really rehabbed it. I can throw, but I won't last. I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
being honest. I just won't last. But I'm looking for challenges, and we're gonna talk a little bit more. And I'm gonna leave out. I'm gonna close it out. And thank you, man. I'm a disciple of baseball. I
Yes, you
love that.
are.
I'm a disciple. I'm gonna use that. I'm
Saints
gonna
to
tell.
Hill.
I would tell. I'm gonna tell my pastor that he's gonna be like, "Yep." He's gonna say, "Yep, that fits you perfect."
Saintsville. Saintsville. Hey,
I
I'll tell you
like.
right now. Hey, Coach Lowry, they're gonna have like a little whatever, pendants or whatever for people to wear around with you, like, with your mug on it, with
I
your mug
like
on
that,
it.
man. I appreciate that. Thank you, man. It's been a blast. I really enjoyed it. Very own Duke Dickerson. It's been a blast. You've given great information. We talked about fundamentals. We talked about basic things. We talked about life. We talked about everything. We talked about Germany. We talked about playing in the bigs. We talked about being a special advisor. We did it all here in the show today. It's been great. Episode 60. I'm gonna ask the question before I close out. I always ask my audience this question, Duke. Where are you being led? That's for the listeners. Where are they being led? In other words, what direction are we going in? Either you're going north, south, east, or west. And the question is this: what does LED, LED, what does the L stand for? The L stands for listen. Duke Dickerson has given out great information. If you didn't listen to this, you must be dead. The guy has given you some great content, and God says in His Word, it says, faith comes by hearing, not by speaking. And I had a guy on yesterday. We talked about that, and he's like, he does this. That means keep your mouth closed, keep your ears ready. Listen, faith comes by hearing. And the next letter is E, Duke. E stands for what? Execute on what Duke has said. Listen, execute, because God has given us the opportunity to dominate on things in this earth. He talks about that in Genesis 1:28. You're made in His image. We're all made in His image, but the question is, are you going to dominate the situation that God has given you? This is Coach Laurie, very own Savell, and I had the classic, wonderful Duke Dickerson. It's been nothing but a blast. Episode 60. I love you, man. Take care. God bless, and never stress.
God bless you as well.
Thank you, brother. Take
Yes, sir.
care. All right.